The bell chimed softly as Gavin Carter pushed open the door of the small diner, the warm scent of fresh bread and roasted coffee filling the air. This was not a place he usually frequented, far from the upscale restaurants where he closed deals over expensive wines and impeccably plated dishes. That evening, however, it was not about business. Beside him, in a wheelchair, sat Lily, his 6-year-old daughter, wrapped in a pale pink coat. Her small body seemed fragile, her head slightly tilted, her fingers nervously fidgeting against her dress. She did not speak, nor did she look around like other children might have. She was simply there, silent, in a world Gavin could not reach. His heart tightened, as it did every time he saw her vacant gaze. The waitress, a young woman with tired eyes, offered them a forced smile as she grabbed 2 menus. "Table for 2 somewhere quiet," Gavin requested, his voice firm yet tinged with contained tension. She led them to a booth at the back, away from the hustle of the service. Sitting across from Lily, Gavin picked up the menu without really reading it, his attention fixed on his daughter. "Lily, are you hungry?" he murmured softly. No response. He sighed, helplessness gnawing at his chest. He had built an empire, made impossible decisions, negotiated million-dollar contracts, but in front of his daughter, he felt disarmed. A waitress approached, notepad in hand. "Good evening, my name is Vanessa, and I'll be taking care of you tonight." Gavin looked up. She was young, in her 20s, with a warmth in her hazel eyes that contrasted with the typical exhaustion of restaurant workers. A smudge of flour on her sleeve betrayed a recent stint in the kitchen. "Grilled chicken for me, and for my daughter something soft, maybe soup," he said. Vanessa glanced briefly at Lily, her brow furrowing slightly. "Homemade chicken noodle soup, will that do?" Gavin nodded. As she walked away, he grabbed his phone, scrolling through his emails without conviction, his mind elsewhere. Would Lily eat tonight? Would she push the spoon away, as always? This ordinary, unpretentious diner would mark the beginning of a change he could never have anticipated. A few minutes later, Vanessa returned, placing a steaming bowl of soup in front of Lily and a plate of grilled chicken in front of Gavin. "Call me if you need anything," she said before slipping away. Gavin sighed, grabbing a spoon. "Come on, sweetheart, shall we try?" He scooped up some soup and brought it close to Lily's lips. But before the spoon could get near enough, Lily's hand flailed, knocking the utensil away. The metal clanged against the plate with a sharp sound, droplets of broth splattering onto the white tablecloth. A few customers turned their heads. Gavin clenched his jaw, frustration rising, not against Lily, but against the barrier that separated them. He picked up the spoon, his voice softening. "Lily, please." No response. She remained still, her fingers clenched on her dress, lost in her own world. Gavin ran a hand over his face, struggling to maintain patience. He was so absorbed that he barely noticed Vanessa returning. "May I?" she asked, kneeling beside Lily, her expression calm yet determined. Gavin frowned. "May I try?" she repeated, pointing to the spoon. Normally, he would have refused. Lily was not a charity case. He had hired the best specialists to no avail. But something in Vanessa's gaze, gentle and assured, made him hesitate. Without a word, he handed her the spoon. Vanessa positioned herself at Lily's eye level. Instead of forcing it, she spoke, her voice warm. "Hi, Lily. When I was little, my mom used to say that soup is like a hug for your tummy. Would you like to try?" Gavin watched, astonished. No one spoke to Lily like that, as if she understood. At first, nothing happened. Then Lily's fingers twitched. Vanessa smiled. "Just a little sip, my sweet." Slowly, she brought the spoon closer, and this time, Lily did not push it away. The broth touched her lips, and she swallowed. Gavin held his breath. One sip, just one. But for Lily, who often refused to eat, it was a miracle. Then the unthinkable. Lily looked at Vanessa directly and smiled. Gavin felt the world tilt. Lily hadn't smiled in years, not since her mother's death. This moment, in this ordinary diner, was a glimmer in the darkness. That night, Gavin couldn't sleep. After bringing Lily home, tucking her in, and retreating to his office, the image of Vanessa kneeling beside his daughter haunted him. The way she had spoken to her, how Lily had responded, that smile. He hadn't seen Lily smile since his wife's death, a void that had engulfed their home. Sitting at his desk, a glass of untouched whiskey in front of him, Gavin stared at the wall, lost in thought. He had hired experts, expensive therapists, renowned caregivers, but none had reached Lily like Vanessa, a waitress in some diner. Who was she? Why had she succeeded where all others had failed? An impulse seized him. He grabbed his phone and called his assistant. Find everything you can on Vanessa Lane. The next evening he returned to the diner. The place was quieter, the dinner rush over. Vanessa was cleaning a table in the back, her sleeves rolled up, a smudge of flour on her cheek. She jumped when she saw him. Mr. Carter? Vanessa, we need to talk, he said straightforward. She wiped her hands on her apron, glancing at the customers. I'm working. It won't take long. She sighed, then followed him to the service station, away from the others. You were amazing with Lily yesterday, he said. Vanessa blinked, taken aback. She shrugged. I treated her like a child, not a patient. Gavin watched her, searching for a crack. You've worked with children like her before, haven't you? She stiffened. I babysat, that's all. You're lying, he said, narrowing his eyes. Her lips pressed together. I don't know what you're implying, but I did some research, Gavin cut in, his voice firm. You studied special education at NYU, graduated at the top of your class. Then 2 years ago, you dropped out without explanation. And now you're a waitress. Vanessa held her breath, her hands clenching. That's none of your business. Gavin leaned in. It is my business if you're the only one who made my daughter smile. Silence stretched, heavy with tension, Vanessa looking away, her face closed off. Gavin broke the silence. Come work for me. Be Lily's caregiver. She trusts you, she responds to you. She needs you. Vanessa stared at him, then burst into a hollow laugh. You don't even know me, and you think hiring me is a good idea? I know you're smart, patient, and whatever the reason you fled your past, it wasn't because you were bad at what you did. Vanessa flinched, a deep pain crossing her eyes. I can't, she murmured. Vanessa, I can't, she repeated more firmly. Thank you, but I'm not who you think I am. Her throat tightened. I have tables to clean. She turned on her heel and walked away. Gavin watched her leave, his jaw clenched. Something in her gaze, in the break of her voice, troubled him. Vanessa was not just a waitress, and he was determined to understand why she was running. A businessman used to getting answers. He ordered his team to dig deeper. The reports came in quickly. Vanessa had been a brilliant student at NYU, specializing in special education, praised by her professors. Then 2 years ago, she had vanished without a degree. One detail struck him, an obituary. Caleb Lane, 10 years old, died suddenly, suffering from cerebral palsy. He was her brother. Gavin felt his stomach knot. Vanessa hadn't just studied to help children like Lily. She had lived with a brother who needed it, and she had lost him. That night, he returned to the diner resolute. Vanessa sighed upon seeing him near the entrance. Mr. Carter, you again? We need to talk. Outside. Reluctantly, she followed him into the cool night air. Gavin got straight to the point. I know about Caleb. Vanessa froze, her breath caught, as if she had been struck. I know he was your brother, that he had cerebral palsy, and that he died, he continued, his voice soft yet insistent. Why didn't you tell me? She let out a trembling, joyless laugh. Because it's none of your business. Gavin stepped closer to her. You gave up something you were meant for. I want to know why. Vanessa crossed her arms, closing in on herself. So you can fix me? Offer me another job, she retorted bitterly. I don't want to. I want to know because you're the only one who reached my daughter, Gavin interrupted. If you don't help her, I have the right to understand why. A heavy silence settled in. Then in a hollow voice Vanessa spoke. Caleb was everything to me. My parents weren't often around, so it was just him and me. I spent my life learning to take care of him, promising that I would always be there, that I would help him get better. Her voice broke. But I couldn't. She took a trembling breath. One night he got sick, just a simple fever at first. But it got worse. By the time we took him to the hospital, it was too late. Tears rolled down her cheeks, which she wiped away furiously. I was studying to help children like him. I was supposed to know what to do, but I failed. And I don't want to fail again. Gavin looked at her, his heart aching. That was why she had refused. Not out of indifference, but because she carried the weight of a loss that had shattered her. The fear of getting close to another child, of reliving that pain, had driven her to flee. So, you know everything. Happy? She shot back, stepping back. Gavin remained silent, shaken. For the first time, he had no answer. Vanessa had built walls, convinced that distancing herself was safer than risking another loss. But that night, a crack had opened. A few days later, Gavin renewed his offer. 1 week, just one. Try it. Vanessa wanted to refuse, but something in his voice made her hesitate. And then there was Lily, her fragile smile, her eyes that had rested on her at dinner. It had been so long since she had felt useful. Against all reason, she agreed. 1 week, no more. The immense Carter mansion left her speechless. A manor with soaring ceilings, marble floors, and vast spaces almost too empty. Gavin led her to Lily's room, a soft space in pastel colors, bathed in golden light. Lily was there, curled up in her chair, silent. She's been calmer since her mother died, Gavin murmured. The first 2 days were tough. Lily ignored Vanessa, flinching when she tried to get her to hold a toy, turning her head away when she spoke. Doubts assailed Vanessa. What if she was no longer capable of doing this? What if she failed like with Caleb? But on the third day, a change occurred. As she read aloud, without expecting a reaction, Vanessa noticed a detail. Lily's fingers were tapping softly, in rhythm with her words. It was slight but real. "You like this story, don't you?" she asked gently. No response, but the tapping continued. A glimmer of hope was born within her. That night, by Lily's bed, Vanessa straightened the covers and, without thinking, began to sing softly. "You are my sunshine." It was the lullaby she had sung to Caleb. The one she had vowed never to sing again. But seeing Lily's fingers clutching the blanket, she couldn't stop. Outside, Gavin, passing in the hallway, froze, overwhelmed. Lily was sleeping peacefully, without nightmares, for the first time in months. He felt a warmth in his chest, mixed with gratitude and admiration for this woman who, in such a short time, had brought a bit of light back into their home. In the following days, Gavin began to get involved. First as an observer, he found himself staying. During the sessions, pretending to check if the experiment was working. Then he participated. He helped Lily stack blocks, held her hand during exercises, sat next to her during readings. Unbeknownst to him, he was there every day. One afternoon, as Vanessa guided Lily through stretches, she caught his gaze. He wasn't just watching, he was seeing with a vulnerable softness. "You don't have to be here," she murmured. Gavin, eyes on Lily, who was gripping his fingers, replied, "Yes, I do. I should have been here a long time ago." Vanessa felt a warmth in her chest. She had judged Gavin as a detached businessman, but now she understood. He wasn't absent out of indifference, but because he didn't know how to be present. As the days went by, Gavin changed. He laughed more, a genuine laugh, far from the polite smile of the beginning. He learned to soothe Lily, to be there for her. Vanessa, on the other hand, rediscovered a forgotten feeling, a purpose. With Lily, it wasn't a job, it was a home. One evening, after a successful session, they sat on the terrace, watching the sun set. Lily was sleeping inside, exhausted but happy. Vanessa sipped tea, savoring the warmth. "She's making so much progress," Gavin said, his gaze distant. "Thanks to you." Vanessa shook her head. "Thanks to her. I'm just helping her see what she's capable of." Gavin fixed his intense blue eyes on her. "You do this for everyone, don't you? You give people the desire to believe in themselves." Vanessa blinked, troubled. "I used to," she murmured. Gavin looked at her for a long time. "You still do." Those words, spoken softly, made her heart race. For the first time, she saw Gavin not as a billionaire or a distant father, but as a man. The air vibrated with a new tension. Without thinking, Gavin reached out, his fingers brushing the back of Vanessa's hand. "Vanessa," he murmured. She looked up, and he kissed her. The kiss was soft, cautious, as if he were giving her time to pull away. She didn't. For a moment, she let herself be carried away by the warmth of his lips, the gentleness of his hand on her cheek. Then reality caught up with her. She pulled away breathless. "I can't," she whispered, getting up. "I'm sorry, that was a mistake." Gavin's expression darkened. "A mistake? I can't do this, Gavin." Her voice broke. "I can't lose someone I care about again." Gavin softened, but she was already moving away. Vanessa hurriedly went inside, leaving him alone under the starry sky. Vanessa had spent years building walls, convinced that love led to loss. But Gavin and Lily had slipped into her heart, and that terrified her. The next morning, Vanessa made her decision. She walked into Gavin's office, fists clenched, heart racing. He looked up, surprised. "Vanessa, I quit," she said, each word tearing at her throat. Gavin froze, his expression darkening. "What? I can't do this anymore." He straightened up, arms crossed. "Why?" She wanted to scream the truth. Because she was scared, because she loved them too much, because she couldn't bear to lose them. But she shrugged. "It was always temporary. I never planned to stay." Gavin squinted. "And Lily?" Vanessa flinched. "She'll be fine." "No, she won't," he said, his voice tense. "You know that." She looked away, unable to think of Lily, of her progress, of her little fingers gripping her sleeve. "You think she needs you," she said, her voice trembling. "But I'm not a permanent solution. You're just looking for someone to replace your wife." The silence was icy. Gavin stiffened, his hands gripping the edge of the desk. "Get out," he said, his voice dangerously calm. Vanessa turned on her heel, each step tearing at her heart. 3 days after her departure, Lily stopped eating. She no longer played, no longer reacted, no longer smiled. Gavin did everything to fill the void. He sat with her for meals, read her stories, played the games Vanessa had taught them, but nothing was the same. Lily didn't look at him the way she looked at Vanessa. He hated this helplessness, this feeling of failure. He hated that Vanessa had left as if nothing mattered. But most of all, he hated how much he missed her. A man of logic, he had built his empire on cold decisions. But here logic was not enough. Vanessa's absence left a void, and Lily was suffering as much as he was. At first, the signs were subtle. Lily refused her favorite dishes, turned her head when Gavin helped her. Then one night, he found her curled up in bed, silently crying into her pillow. Something inside him broke. He sat beside her, his chest tight. "Lily." No response. He gently brushed her hair aside. "Talk to me, my dear." In a whisper almost inaudible, she said, "Where is Vanessa?" Gavin closed his eyes. He had thought he could fix everything, that Lily would eventually feel better. But he was wrong. Vanessa was not just a caregiver. She had become family, and he had been too blind to admit it. He could no longer ignore the truth. The next day he made a decision. He returned to the diner, Lily in his arms, her small fingers clutching his coat, her pale face marked by weeks of sadness. The diner was crowded, but he didn't care. Vanessa was behind the counter, scribbling in a notebook. She looked tired, thinner, her hair hastily tied back. When she looked up and saw them, she froze. Then her gaze fell on Lily, and her breath caught. Within seconds, she circled the counter, kneeling beside them, her hands trembling. "Lily," she whispered, her voice broken. "Oh, my sweet." Lily looked up, staring at Vanessa as if doubting her reality. Then slowly, she reached out a hand and touched her cheek. Vanessa broke into tears, pulling Lily into her arms, holding her tightly. Gavin watched, his throat tight. Then in a soft voice, he spoke the words he should have said weeks earlier. "I need you, Vanessa." She froze, her arms around Lily, and looked up, her hazel eyes shining with tears. Gavin took a step toward her. "Not just for Lily. For me." He took a trembling breath. "I was afraid to let you in, of what it meant. But I can't do this without you." Vanessa opened her mouth, but no sound came out. She wanted to believe him, but fear still held her back. A few days later, in the dining room, a magical moment occurred. Lily, trembling, grasped a spoon and for the first time fed herself. A hesitant yet monumental gesture. She blinked in surprise, then looked at Vanessa, who murmured, her throat tight. "You did it, my sweet." Gavin smiled, moved. Lily giggled, a sound he hadn't heard in so long. At that moment, he knew it wasn't just what Vanessa had done for Lily, but what she had done for him. He slipped his hand into his pocket, feeling the small velvet box he had carried for days. "Vanessa," he said softly. She turned, wiping her tears of joy. He knelt down. "Marry me." Vanessa brought her hands to her mouth, incredulous. Lily, unaware of the enormity of the moment, clapped her hands. "Say yes." Vanessa burst into a trembling laugh. "Gavin." He took her hand, his gaze sincere. "I love you. Not just for Lily, but for me." Tears flowed, but this time, they were not from fear, but from hope. "Yes," she whispered. He slid the ring onto her finger and pulled her into his arms. Lily laughing beside them. For the first time, they were no longer three broken souls trying to survive. They were a family. Love is choosing someone again and again despite the fear. Gavin and Vanessa had thought love was lost, but through Lily, they had found an unexpected family. Proving that the bonds forged can be stronger than those of blood. Their home, once marked by emptiness, now echoed with Lily's laughter, Vanessa's presence, and the hope of a future together.